October 6, 1973. Israel is quiet. Across the country, people are observing Yom Kippur, the holiest day in Judaism. Streets are empty. Radios are silent. Soldiers are home with their families. Then suddenly, everything changes. News begins spreading at lightning speed. Israel is under attack. Not from one direction, but two. Egyptian forces are storming across the Suez Canal in the Sinai Peninsula, while Syrian armored divisions surge into the Golan Heights. Within hours, thousands of tanks, artillery guns and aircraft are unleashed. For the first time since 1967, Israel's survival is suddenly in question. 6 years earlier, during the lightning-fast Six-Day War, Israel crushed the armies of Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. In just 6 days, Israel captured massive territories: the Sinai Peninsula, the Golan Heights, the West Bank. For the Arab world, it was a devastating humiliation. For Israel, it created a dangerous illusion. Many leaders began to believe something simple: the Arab nations would never dare attack again. That belief would soon become Israel's greatest weakness. After 1967, the region never truly found peace. Along the Suez Canal, Egyptian and Israeli forces exchanged artillery fire, air raids, and commando attacks in what became known as the War of Attrition. This low-level conflict lasted from 1969 to 1970. To Israeli civilians, war slowly became part of everyday life. One reservist doctor later recalled how people could recognize the sound of bomb-carrying jets simply by the roar of their engines. When the planes were loud, they knew bombs were coming. Both sides spent these years preparing for the next confrontation. Israel built a massive defensive system along the Suez Canal known as the Bar Lev Line. Huge sand walls, fortified bunkers, anti-tank trenches, long-range tank firing positions. Israeli intelligence believed the line was nearly impossible to break. But some commanders strongly disagreed. One of them was General Ariel Sharon, who warned that the line could trap Israeli forces in a rigid defensive posture. If Egypt attacked with overwhelming force, the defenses might collapse. Few listened. In 1970, Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser died. He was replaced by Anwar Sadat. Sadat had one goal: erase the humiliation of 1967. Meanwhile in Syria, a new leader shared that same objective: Hafez al-Assad. Together, Egypt and Syria began secretly preparing a coordinated strike against Israel. But this time, they planned to fight very differently. During the War of Attrition, Egypt and Syria received huge shipments of Soviet weapons. These included modern surface-to-air missile systems, SAMs, powerful anti-tank guided missiles, new T-55 and T-62 tanks, advanced MiG-21 fighter jets. These weapons were specifically designed to counter Israel's biggest advantage: its air force. Egypt's strategy was simple: advance quickly, dig in under a shield of anti-air missiles, then force Israel into negotiations from a position of strength. They did not plan to destroy Israel. They only needed one thing: a limited victory. Egypt and Syria needed surprise. They found it in a date that seemed impossible for war: October 6, 1973, the day of Yom Kippur. Israeli defenses were relaxed. Many soldiers were on leave. Communication across the country was minimal. Suddenly, 240 Egyptian aircraft roar across the Sinai. Their targets: Israeli command centers and fortifications. At the same time, more than 2,000 artillery guns open fire. The ground shakes. Moments later, Egyptian commandos rush across the Suez Canal. Then something extraordinary happens. Instead of trying to blast through Israel's massive sand barriers with explosives, Egyptian engineers use high-pressure water cannons. Within minutes, huge gaps appear in the defensive wall. Through those openings, tanks and armored vehicles begin pouring into the Sinai. Israeli forces rush to counterattack, but they quickly run into a weapon they barely understand: the Sagar anti-tank missile. Small Egyptian infantry teams fire wire-guided missiles that punch through Israeli armor with terrifying accuracy. Tank after tank explodes. Israeli airstrikes try to intervene, but they run straight into the deadly umbrella of Egyptian SAM missiles. By the end of the first night, over 100,000 Egyptian soldiers have crossed the canal. Israeli defenses are shattered. The Bar Lev Line has almost completely fallen. Only one outpost remains: Fort Budapest. At the exact same moment the Egyptians attack in Sinai, Syrian forces launch their own offensive in the Golan Heights. Hundreds of Syrian tanks surge forward across the border. Israeli defenders are vastly outnumbered. In some sectors the ratio is 5 Syrian tanks for every Israeli one. Some Israeli units are reduced to only a handful of tanks trying to hold entire front lines. Yet they keep fighting. One of the most brutal battles of the war takes place in a valley in the Golan Heights. Israeli tank crews later give it a haunting name, the Valley of Tears. For 4 days, roughly 100 Israeli tanks hold off nearly 500 Syrian tanks. During the day, Israeli gunners use superior long-range accuracy. But at night, the Syrians gain the advantage. Their tanks have night vision equipment. Israeli crews must fight using moonlight and the glow of burning vehicles. For a moment, it seems like the Syrian army might break through into northern Israel. Inside Israel, panic spreads. Some leaders begin to fear the worst. According to several sources, discussions even take place about preparing nuclear weapons as a last resort deterrent. But reinforcements are finally arriving. Across the country, 200,000 reservists are mobilized. Within days, the tide begins to turn. By October 10th, Israeli forces launch a powerful counterattack in the Golan Heights. Syrian defenses begin collapsing. Israeli tanks push toward the Syrian city of Quneitra, threatening a possible advance on Damascus. Meanwhile, in Sinai, Israeli commanders search desperately for a weakness in the Egyptian lines. They find one: a narrow gap near Bitter Lake. If Israeli forces can cross the canal there, they could drive directly toward Cairo. On the night of October 15th, Israeli forces launch a daring operation. Under heavy artillery fire, small units cross the canal. At first, Egyptian commanders think it's just a minor raid. But it isn't. Within days, Israeli forces are rampaging behind Egyptian lines. They destroy missile batteries, supply depots, and communication centers. Egypt's powerful Third Army suddenly faces the threat of encirclement. The war is about to spiral out of control. Now the United States and the Soviet Union step in. Both fear the conflict could escalate into a global confrontation. Washington launches a massive airlift of weapons to Israel. The Soviet Union continues supplying Egypt and Syria. The Cold War is suddenly playing out in the deserts of the Middle East. Under intense international pressure, a ceasefire is finally declared on October 22, 1973. The Yom Kippur War lasts only 19 days, but the cost is enormous. Approximate casualties: Israel, about 2,800 dead. Egypt, up to 15,000 dead. Syria, around 3,500 dead. For Israel, the war is a shocking wake-up call. Their intelligence system had completely failed to predict the attack. The reason? A dangerous assumption known as the concept. Israeli leaders believed Egypt would never start a war it could not decisively win. But Egypt never intended to win outright, only to prove it could fight back. In the years that followed, the consequences reshaped the Middle East. Egypt gradually moved away from the Soviet Union and toward the United States. Eventually, Egypt and Israel signed a historic peace agreement. But the wider conflict in the region was far from over. And the lessons of the Yom Kippur War remain clear even today. And war. Overconfidence can be as dangerous as the enemy.